Welcome to the MoxStars podcast. My name is Evan Kunai. Welcome to the show. Ritter is a busy man. He's out of town again this week, and so the return of Pete. Oh yeah, Pete, you tell him how it is. This is the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. Ugh. Get it! And the home of the mid-range mindset. Welcome in. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can see our page on the screen, some of our most recent episodes. If you're not following us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up on all of our videos, make us look really, really cool. And then you can also find us on all major podcasting platforms. You can follow along there. You can also support us by joining our Patreon, which today we are resolving one of our giveaways, which is an Arcane Signet, the Dan Schneider foil, or Dan Snyder. Did I just say Dan Schneider? Dan Frazier. Arcane Signet. It's a foil etched. I remember the name of the foiling. It's foil etched Dan Frazier Arcane Signet and a 1/1 Cora Labs can cap with our logo on it. The entries have been submitted, and stay tuned to the end of the show. The reason I bring that up in tandem with supporting us on Patreon is because if you do support us, you get a free entry by just becoming a supporter into every one of our giveaways. And if you become a super supporter, like UWP Quirch, a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead, you get 2 free entries into every single giveaway. And the giveaway value is equivalent to how much we get in Patreon support. So the more people that join, the more likely you are to win, and the higher the prize pool gets. So you can go on there, help support the show, and you can also join our Discord community server, where we're chatting about things like, I don't know, our application to MagicCon Vegas again this year, where I not only submitted us as creators, but I also submitted applications for the cosplay contest. So if you want to put in your 2 cents on which character you think I should represent by cosplaying as them, jump on the Discord. We're having that conversation right now. I also jumped in to do a community content presentation. So if there is something that we do better than anybody else on as content creators, let me know so that I can really hone in what it is that we do so well, so I can give the whole community at MagicCon a good idea of what we do to help grow this community. That being said, let's get into what we're talking about today. We are just going to cover quickly the top cards from Thunder Junction. Yeehaw, all the content creators out there wearing cowboy hats. Makes me want to barf sometimes. But the cards are great nonetheless. Here we go. Last week we talked about the top cards from Thunder Junction, and now we're actually using MTG Goldfish, which scrapes data from all these different sales platforms to see what their values are. If you still care about values and you don't just proxy everything anyway, we see Tiny Bones, #1, at least the highest valued card at $31.98 right out the gate. The cards just technically became legal in formats this past Friday. So now we're actually looking at the prices as they fluctuate. People are getting their hands on them in Standard, using them in Arena, and then, well, hopefully the prices are reflective of what is actually taking hold in probably mostly constructed formats. So Slickshot Show Off is running rampant. Mono red is crazy. Satoru is giving ninjas legs in Standard, which is with that whole expansion of time frame with the Standard format opening up an additional year. All those ninjas from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty are giving Satoru it's so much value just putting that down and then just coming down, drawing cards and refilling your hand. Ninjas now basically replace themselves. Terror of the Peaks, great commander card. Jace, I don't quite know. I haven't really seen it yet. But Bristly Bill, I have seen play on Arena, and it is nasty. It's so much fun to see it play, especially in Brawl, it probably makes a really great mono green commander. But in Brawl, it's like with all the fetch lands you have available, it's actually a nasty little commander that gets out of control so quickly. Goldvein Hydra as well. And then, I definitely ranked Final Showdown higher than I'm like, now that I'm like reflecting on some of this and I've like seen the opinion of a few other content creators out there. I'm not super hot on it anymore. And like, it's, Play to Win had a big influence on that, and just saying how we've seen these like silver bullet type cards in the past and they haven't had impact in the market, or they haven't had impact in competitive formats. So, we'll really see how it like all shapes out. But I really think its value comes from it also being an instant speed board wipe. So maybe since it's like, silver bullet it'll come around. But I think Pate, what do you think about Final Showdown? No, dude, it's not that bad. Well, Pete's spoken. So here you can kind of see the price is reflective. Like I said, using MTG Goldfish this time because, honestly, Card Kingdom is a little behind in their pricing. If you want a good deal on a Tiny Bones right now, they have them for $20. I think it's like $25 or $27. So you can actually catch yourself a good deal if you're quick with it. I do like Railway Brawler, a card that I didn't really even notice until it was too late. But here we are. All right. Something big happened just today, just this morning, as I was waking up and rolling around and looking to record. And so this made its way into today's episode. We have spoilers. Marketing from Modern Horizons 3, and this time it has been uploaded with potato quality because we have flip planeswalkers. We have, I think, 4 of them that we're going to cover today. But first, we have Grist. Yes, more Grist is good. Any more Grist in the world is for the best. So if they want to make more Grist cards after this, put it in standard. I don't care. Whatever. Grist rocks. But here it is. Grist Voracious Larva for 1 green mana, a legendary creature insect at Mythic Rare, a 1/2 with Death Touch. Whenever Grist Voracious Larva or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay 1 green mana. If you do, exile Grist, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. And on the back, it is green and black, so you're not just going to be able to run this in every mono green commander deck. Its identity also is black. So here we have legendary planeswalker Grist entering the battlefield with 3 loyalty. For +1, you can create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill 2 cards. Put a death touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. You can -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -6, for each creature card in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 black and green insect. Right off the bat, first impression is like, this is meant to invigorate Vengevine like decks. And it might even be a little slow for that because you're probably, like focusing on like discarding Hollowed One or something of the like, or discarding multiple cards so that you can cast the Hollowed One and then bring Vengevine back. And then setting up Grist would actually be sort of like slowing the deck in its intention. So I'm not really sure where this like folds into like Modern, but we know for a fact that pretty much every time that Modern Horizons is released, that it fully warps the format. As far as Commander goes, I think that this is a little bit easier to trigger and on Curve, that there are plans built around it. So you get potentially a black-green Commander deck out of this, and I don't really see it being like competitive by any means, but it is like a card that should be easier to flip, like Reassembling Skeleton can trigger this or proc this, and then a few other things like Gravecrawler and whatnot. But Grist here is removal, like right off the bat. So for, you lay it down for 1 green mana, and then next turn you are able to reanimate something. That's another thing. Reanimation effects that we don't have in other like constructed formats, you do have in Commander. So you're going to be able to flip this for 1 green mana and potentially fill the grave with more things, create Death Touch tokens, or like I said, have removal. I don't really think the last ability is only really going to be relevant if you are playing casual Commander, where like you're doubling seasons and your Vorinclex, Monstrous Raiders are on the field and present when this procs. So that even then, that's a little slow. That's like turn 6, 7, and you're not getting like a huge payoff from it. And you've spent your first however many turns filling up the grave. So we'll see what Grist does in the future. It's very exciting. I do love the design. Most of the time, these flip planeswalkers have like, it's like telling the story of how they like gain their spark. So it looks like Grist just like devoured, like after a planeswalker died, it sort of like decomposed the body and absorbed the spark. That's kind of like maybe my theory right off the bat, but we'll see. Like I said, how it plays, how it affects formats. Very exciting stuff. Next, we have Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. For 1 blue mana, you get a legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard, a 0/3 flying. Whenever Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student attacks, investigate. When you draw your 3rd card in a turn, exile Tamiyo, then return her to the battlefield, transformed under her owner's control. And then on the backside, you have Tamiyo, Seasoned Scholar. Entering the battlefield with 2 loyalty, you can +2, and until your next turn, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, it gets -1/-0 until end of turn. You can -3, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. That seems good. You can also -7, draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library, round it up. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. So they're like, this one has a payoff, like an ultimate payoff. I'd say like it was just a little bit, not even just a little bit. It was way more powerful than what we saw with Grist. So right off the bat, the front side, I'm like happy right off the bat that Grist and Tamiyo are both 1 mana. They are turn 1 plays. And like they come down super quick and they start affecting the game and building value, generating value almost immediately. So for 0/3, the one thing that is notable here about the front side is that instead of saying whenever Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student becomes tapped, investigate, or have tap, investigate, or something of the like, they have dictated that to be far too popular, maybe or far too powerful and maybe abusable. So it is limited to attacking. So you're going to have to basically not sacrifice, but like you're going to have to tap your 0/3 blocker, flying blocker, in order to get a clue. And then when you've drawn your 3rd card in a turn. So this one feels a little bit harder to achieve and a little bit more punishable, honestly. So especially with how Bowmasters exists, just by existing, this is bad. So and that Bowmasters Modern legal, so this feels really bad. And if anything, this one's the one that's not going to see play. I hate to say that right off the bat, but none of the effects change like or break parity in any way for the payoff, where like Tamiyo consumes so much knowledge that her spark is ignited, turns into the Seasoned Scholar. You can't -3 right away. Entering with only 2, you can only +2, which means you're already waiting a turn in a format that is already so incredibly fast. Now, this isn't like you need to also be playing green. I mean, it says if you -3, if it's a green card, you add 1 green mana or 1 mana of any color. But it's like you don't need to be playing green, so you can play a blue control shell. I just don't think that you're going to be moving fast enough to like. I don't know. It's a quandary. It is definitely like a paradox here because it inclines that you are going to be moving fast because you're drawing 3 cards a turn, but the effect payoff blah, 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 blah. Tamiyo, not very good. Has never been very good, but there are definitely a few printings like the Omniscience version that has like made people like maybe like cringe a little or like wince or flinch in the game when they see it. So even doubling season doesn't really like help this card out much. The investigate thing, there are a few cards lately that have been printed that bank off of like tapping untapped artifacts you control. Maybe there's some tandem strategies there. Next, Ral, Monsoon Mage. For 1 and a red, legendary creature, human wizard, important typing. It's a 1/3 that says instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Ral Monsoon Mage deals 1 damage to you. If you win the flip, you may exile Ral. If you do, return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. And he flips into a blue and red permanent, Ral Leyline Prodigy. Entering with 2 loyalty, Ral Leyline Prodigy enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on him for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. You can +1 until your next turn. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. You can -2. Ral deals 2 damage divided as you choose amongst 1 or 2 targets. Draw a card if you control a blue permanent other than Ral. -8. Exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells from among them this turn without paying their mana costs. Wow. Now, here is a payoff for like the mid-game, early game, mid-game, late game. Like this allows you to stack multiple instants on the, like put multiple instants on the stack so that you can like get multiple triggers so that when he flips that static ability actually like adds up to something. And later in the game, if you have plenty of cards in your hand, if you're able to generate that type of advantage, you could potentially ult like right away. So unfortunately, not in the same colors as like your doubling seasons or your counter doubling effects, but this is still like whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell during your turn, there's chance here. It's actually almost like it's encouraging you to lose once or twice or whatever, just so that the like on the other side of it, like the other side of the coin, when it does flip, you are rewarded for losing a few times. So it seems like Ral here is sort of like tempting fate, experimenting, knowing that there is like a payoff, but knowing there's risk as well. So here we are. I think this is something that instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Commander, I don't know. I don't really know if this like really instigates any like CDH strategies that will. It helps you get your brain freeze lines off like a little bit easier, maybe with like a Lotus Petal instead of going full Lion's Eye Diamond. But this is like it's going to be powerful in Modern for I think still with like control decks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really cool card. I'm excited to see where it goes. The how he got his spark is very obvious. You know, it's like that's a good story, and hopefully with Modern Horizons 3, we do get a little bit more like maybe some story background on Ral to get further flesh out this character that we've seen now have multiple, like more than a few cards. And last but not least, we have Sorin of House Markov. For 1 and a black, legendary creature, human noble. At Mythic, it's a 1/4 lifelink with Extort, which if you're unfamiliar with Extort, the reminder text is here. Whenever you cast a spell, you may pay a hybrid Orzhov mana, which is white or black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain that much life. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, exile Sorin of House Markov. Then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. When he re-enters the battlefield, he becomes Sorin, Ravenous Neonate. With 3 loyalty counters, it also has Extort as a static ability. And then you can +2, create a food token. You can -1, Sorin, Ravenous Neonate, deals damage equal to the amount of life you gain this turn to any target. You can -6, gain control of target creature. It becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a lifelink counter on it if you control a white permanent other than that creature or Sorin. Wow. This one, I think, is the best as far as mid-range in what you want to be doing there. So in Commander, this is the one. This is the one. This is the easiest one to flip by far, because the extort, you cast one spell, you extort one time, and you milk your opponents for 3 life, and then you gain that 3 life, and then your post-combat main phase, Sorin is flipping, and then comes with 3 loyalty, so you can immediately -1. You just gained 3 life off of that interaction. So you can bolt anything. Sorin is a bolt on a stick. And if you really need Foon tokens, if you're in like Abzan or whatever, and you are leaning into food, like I know that Samwise Gamgee and Cauldron Familiar like really like to bank off of food. So this could also potentially be that for them, like be an enabler in another way. So this is super cool. I don't really see it like having a downside, and the ult actually is a pretty massive payoff. You can take someone's commander. You can I mean, it's endless. Whatever is the most valuable creature on the battlefield is now yours, and it has lifelink. So you're going to be gaining life. This is, I think that if you're playing Ikra Shadiki, like this is also like maybe beneficial to you as long as you gain 3 or more life, because it's a 1/4. Duh, Ikra loves this. So maybe this does make the cut for those like Abzan Ikra, or if there's 4-color Ikra, like maybe this does make it for maybe like there's some way to like infinitely cast spells in that way and extort. So this could replace like things like blind obedience if it's like a Staxi build. I don't really know. That's just spitballing, but this is pretty cool. This is Sorin has consumed too much flesh, and that has helped ignite that spark, and he is now incredibly powerful. We all know that he becomes an Imperious Bloodlord at, if you want to know what that's like, you can spend $60 to get one. But Sorin here, I think out of the 4 that we're now seeing as a spoiler, marketable Planeswalker, is the most powerful. Just by being able to bolt something immediately in Commander is unparalleled for the rest of these. Like I just don't see how like you get much more value out of something than that. You can set this up on turn 1, cast a spell, trigger the extort, go ahead, bolt something, and every turn maybe cast multiple spells, and then you've gained 6 life, 6 damage to something. This has potential. This has a lot of potential, and I really love it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. All right, now that we're done with that, I want to give you guys an update on the deck that I've been working on, and I'm going to do a deck profile video on this, or a primer, but the request of Scion of the Ur-Dragon, I've renamed the deck. So here's the update. It's called Scion of Your Mama, and this deck is hot. I really love it. I really like that I get to use cards like Ablispawn to bank on other people's docksides because treasures are so valuable to me. I took the recommendation of adding Kinnan in here because I have so many dorks and so many treasure generators. So that's going to come in huge. And also if I end up getting to activate the ability, it's like huge win for me there. I don't know if no one else is really playing this card, which is Immersturm Predator from Kaldheim, but it's a 4-mana vampire dragon, 3/3 flyer that when it becomes tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Immersturm Predator. Sacrifice another creature. Immersturm Predator gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. So it's with Scion of the Ur-Dragon. If it's out on the battlefield and you weren't able to pop off and win on that turn, it is instant speed interaction to exile a card from a graveyard, which I think is just sexy. So not only do you make your Scion a little bit bigger, but you also give it indestructible and exile a card from somebody's graveyard. If they're trying to pop off on a World Breach, you get rid of their Brain Freeze, you get rid of their Lionside Diamond, and then they're stuck sitting in the water. So I really like this card and its flexibility. The other reason that I included it is because instead of going for what is it, like Temur Sabertooth lines or Emil the Blessed lines, which I've seen a lot of decks do, I really wanted to go for the Ruthless Technomancer lines, because if I'm able to like create those treasures with Dockside or whatever, which is the primary target here, this is the Dockside loop, get the Sign of the Ur Dragon out, feed that 2 mana in, I now have my sack outlet for the Dockside loop with Ruthless Technomancer, so I can keep feeding Dockside into the grave, keep creating treasures, and keep the cycle going. I think it's got a great amount of flexibility, and we'll really just kind of see where it goes. We'll see how it plays. Still testing it out in like test hands, and like I probably ran like 30, 40 test hands with this. It all is working out pretty darn well. So outside of that, I'm also running another unconventional line, which includes, well, I'm including Beledross Witherbloom here as sort of like a ritual. So once you activate, so this is, let me be clear, this is really only a ritual once you have to activate multiple times, because the important thing to note about the Sign of the Ur Dragon is that once you activate and the ability resolves, he is that dragon, no longer having the ability to search your library to become a copy of something. So you activate once, put your true target on in mind, and then activate again before this is resolved, maintaining priority, and then you become Beledross Witherbloom. You pay the 10 life, you untap your lands, maybe activate again to throw like Hoarding Broodlord into the graveyard, and then maybe if you can activate a third time, you throw Broodlord into the graveyard, Beledross, and then untap your lands, and then it can end up becoming Corvold, so that you can pop off and draw a ton of cards with like a Dockside or something like that. But not only that, this is a World Gorger Dragon deck, because you are tutoring dragons to the graveyard with the ability. World Gorger Dragon just seemed like the best way to generate infinite mana. Now, Sign of the Ur Dragon isn't a mana sink inherently, so ultimately when you start going for this World Gorger combo and you start exiling all of your permanents, you generate infinite mana, you cast the Sign of the Ur Dragon if it's on the battlefield already, and you exile it with the World Gorger, you just send it to the command zone instead of like letting it flicker a ton of times. And then after you generate infinite mana, bring it back down, search for the Realm Scorcher Hellkite, feed all the infinite mana, create, and then infinite damage dealt to your opponents or to any target really. So I think it has legs. It's a little bit convoluted, and versus like, I still have Broodlord lines in here, so like reanimating Broodlord is like, I think, pretty well-known strategy, but it is effective nonetheless, with like Saw in Half, which is why I'm also running Dual Caster Mage. So there are a few things that you can do there with Brooding Horde Lord, or Dual Caster and Dockside. A couple of things. Trying to create a deck that has a lot of different options and a lot of different ways to approach the game. But and then the rest of the deck, I'm playing like Mnemonic Betrayal, which isn't really seen in many other decks. I'm going to find out why, maybe. But, and then a suite of interaction. Atlas has inspired me to give C Double a shot. At its worst, it's a clone. At its best, it allows me to copy spells on the stack and create clones. So we'll see how that plays out. Rocks maybe a little bit lacking, still figuring it out. The mana, because it's 5 colors, maybe I am like being a little too shy on this, and I should like find some more slots for those things. Enchantment's pretty straightforward. Remora, study for card draw. Necromancy, Animate Dead for the World Gorger, and then Survival of the Fittest to like pitch creatures to graveyards and then get what I need. Underworld Breach, Smothering Tithe, need treasures, and then Land Suite is actually straightforward as far as like generating 5 colors, just trying to like really feel it out. If I need cards that are going to provide more utility, I'll do so, and I'll find those out as I put more reps in, and then once I get a few more reps, I'll create that primer so that we can be speaking from a level of experience rather than theory. All right. Today's main subject. If you are still purchasing cards, if you haven't quite got on the proxy train, you are still under the impression that this is an incredibly expensive game. And time flies. It really does. So today I want to cover some of and I didn't really put a number to it because I kept finding more cards that need reprints. So I want to cover the cards that I feel like have been released in between the last 2 and 5 years that need reprints more than anything else in Commander. So, and this isn't necessarily gauged to CDH. You can see a few cards that maybe don't lend to CDH, but there are a few cards out here that 2 years ago, believe it or not, around this time of the year is when Kamigawa Neon Dynasty came out. So our first card on the list is Boseiju and the Channel Lands. Now, Boseiju is by far and away the most expensive of all of them, at $37.26 at its average market price. It is not going to come down anytime soon. So there obviously is Modern Horizons 3 coming up, which is a premium set, which means we're not going to get a master set this year, which, kind of sad in a way. It's unlikely that we're going to see these lands get a reprint. There are a few different types of lands on this list that I think will get reprinted in Modern Horizons 3, but Boseiju and Odawara are, Odawara being 20 flat is kind of egregious. It's obviously worth it. It's one of the best removal spells in Commander, in CDH as well. These are obviously both CDH staples if you are in these colors. So these cards need reprints. These are if you are even playing casually, these are valuable assets to have in your deck that aren't too powerful. I know that there are certain cards that you'll see casual Commander content creators talk about, like Mana Crypt and Mana Vault and stuff like that instantly take your deck from a 4 to a 9, and panic. A Mana Crypt. What's your commander again? It's Odawara and Boseiju don't give off those vibes, because most of the time when you're playing against somebody, they played the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty era, so they just pulled the card. They have it in a deck. It is powerful, but it is not game breaking. It allows your opponents to go get a land. Odawara, 4 mana. If you have legendary creatures set up, it is telegraphed. That is potentially an option that you're going to get a 1 blue mana Odawara to push something back to your hand. It is well costed, very efficient, and absolutely necessary. So hopefully these get reprints soon. I love these cards, and I was hot on them at release. Wished I'd bought more. I think I bought 4 of the the borderless foil Boseiju, not the alternate art, but the one with the city. It's glowing blue. That one was so hot, and I got them for $30 a piece, the borderless foils. So I feel pretty good about the purchase. I ended up selling them for nearly double value, which is great. But this is a set of lands. Even Iganjo, it's $6. But if you're going to reprint a cycle of lands, I think that anybody is going to be happy pulling Iganjo, which by the time a master set does come out, which will be either a year or maybe 2 years from now. So imagine 4-year span between these cards being released and getting reprinted. The value is just going to keep going up. The market is tapped. There are no more prints happening of these sets. So hopefully sooner rather than later, but the price is only going to keep going up on these lands. Another card that's not necessarily CDH, but is within our time frame, is the Meat Hook Massacre at $38.30. Some of you might have just felt your jaw hit the floor. I cannot believe that this is obviously great effect. Aristocrats. This one might cause some groans at the table because it's a board wipe and it's a win condition and it's everything in one nice tight bundle. But this is a card that I think if it is reprinted and is allowed to be played in more casual formats, stuff like that will actually be healthier for the game. So this is one I cannot believe that it's already at $38.30. But we'll see where it stops. It was a $70 card at one point, so it's obviously like, let's see, November 23, yeah, when it came out, I think, yeah, right here when one release, it was at 46, it was 49, $50 is where they're saying it peaked at. So you could get one for as little as $50. Oh God, and oh no, it was up at 70 before New Capenna launched. So kind of a crazy card that definitely had a lot of time in the light. 78 after Dominaria United released. So, and now we're seeing it down. It's about half the price that it was at its peak, but still $40 is too much for a Magic card. And so, especially for something that is, well, kind of necessary in black decks. So here we go. Meathook Massacre needs a reprint. The next card on our list is Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. If you're not watching us on YouTube, I want you to guess really quick what you think of Vorinclex Monstrous Raider is worth. I think it is the best mono green stacks piece that is available currently. Pressures life totals very effectively. Well, it's $56.60. There you go. For all you waiting in suspense. Absolutely insane. I mean, the card is insane. It only stimulates I guess it is a little more broad than just being like, hey, this is branching evolution, or hey, this is a hardened scales effect. No, this is like, this stops your opponents from putting counters on the One Ring. This stops your opponents from generating like orc armies with bowmasters. This stops a few other things. It stops like sagas from triggering. It stops planeswalkers from ticking up. It stops like planeswalkers from being able to activate their abilities because they're going to enter with half the number of counters. Like there are, like this shuts off Teom pretty much effectively for the rest of the game. So this is an insane card, is really powerful at $56. And it is only rising. As you can see here, like on the grid on MTG Goldfish, it is only going to, if you're watching on YouTube, huge shout out. Grocery Outlet just popped up in the advertisements. But you can see it's only been rising over the past few months. And it's just going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. Let's see what its highest point was. Highest point was just after OOOOOWEEEE at $80. Holy shit. My God. That's crazy. $80 for a Vorinclex, and now it is reeling back up to 56. So it's cool to see. I think it's a great card. I don't think it's $80 worth of card. Just like Shieldred, that, isn't one of those cards that's really worth it either. And yes, Shieldred just falls outside of our range. It was only released about 18 months ago, so it feels like an eternity with Shieldred, but only 18 months has elapsed since its release, so it doesn't quite meet our criteria here. So Vorinclex, amazing card, love it. It was the first of this like new Praetor cycle, so definitely needs a reprint coming up soon. I just don't know where they would put it. Like, it wouldn't really fall into a Masters set. It wouldn't really fall. It almost has to fall into like a Phyrexian specialty set or a Secret Lair, or like this would be a sick Secret Lair. Holy crap. So we'll see where it goes. There are obviously a lot of different printings from Kaldheim, different artworks, different texts. Phyrexia LB1, you have the Concept Praetor artworks. But yeah. All right. Next, we're diving deeper into time because we're going to Zendikar Rising. I've been almost talking about it ad nauseum with these double face cards, these MDFCs, but Seagate Restoration is getting out of hand. It is $28.73 for the cheapest version of Seagate Restoration. Is a 7-mana sorcery that draws cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. The payoff is huge. Now, on the other side of it, since it's an MDFC, It is a land, Seagate Reborn, that can enter untapped if you pay 3 life. So it is untapped mana that you can have access to. Obviously, like I said, huge payoff on the other side. You draw a ton of cards if you're generating infinite mana. It's like great. Here, feed into this. I'll just draw a ton more cards and give myself that many more options. This is a commander staple in all. I will say that all of these MDFC mythic lands are commander staples, regardless. Like Agadim's Awakening, which I didn't like pull up the tab or anything, but it is like almost $20, if not a little bit more than $20. So like that card is far worse than Seagate Restoration. That card is far worse than Shatter Skull Smashing. And here we are. It's like, it's crazy how I really wonder, because they're never going to reprint double face cards, at least their current statement is that they won't print double face cards in commander sets just due to the nature of wanting to open the box and play them out of the box, unless they start including like little replacement cards for every single one of them. That's, kind of, against their current model. So Seagate Restoration, also the uncommons could also use reprints, but these are obviously like, this is a CDH card where are you finding a slot for this? Probably, because if you're not focused on ad nos, paying the 3 life is like not really that big of a cost for you to have the upside of an untapped land that comes in. So I really think hopefully in the next year or two we can see these. I would love to see MDFCs, which we're already seeing MDFCs in Modern Horizons 3. I would love to see reprints or new versions of them in Modern Horizons 3. That would be insane. That would be amazing, but that's high hopes. We'll see what happens. Next card, Draneth Magistrate. This is a staple. Like, I know it's a feels bad card in Commander, and I think the reason they haven't reprinted it and it hasn't been a super popular card is because they feel like it goes against the spirit of the game. But they designed it this way, and they did it on purpose, knowing the full scope of its power, knowing that they were going to create many cards that were going to be able to be exiled and be able to cast them from exile, prosper right around this era. It's like you designed this with those things in mind, knowing those were coming down the pipe. So, and not in what it said, other than from anywhere other than their hand. So you knew that commanders were going to be affected by this. It's funny that this didn't see an immediate ban in Commander. Since it hasn't seen an immediate ban, it is obviously one of the best white cards in EDH and CDH. It's an auto-include if you're playing white. So it's $18.85 for the card. If you wanted to get your hands on a premium version, let's see. How much is a borderless foil going for? Extended. They ain't going to tell me. But it's a powerful card nonetheless. It is only going to continue to rise as time goes on. As you can see, just like here, it started off low, and then it had a little spike. Honestly, it had a little spike about like 6 months ago. And, or this is actually not that long ago. It says like 3 months ago, maybe 2 months ago, it had a little bit of a spike. But I know that we were talking about it finally like eclipsing $15 not that long ago. And this is now, going to continue to rise. If you see on Card Kingdom right here, it's $24. That's insane to me. $24. So Draneth Magistrate needs a reprint. Next, these are the lands that I think might get a reprint if we're lucky in Modern Horizons 3. It's the Triomes, the Indantha Triome, or from Ikoria, the Triomes from Ikoria. Now, they aren't going to reprint the whole cycle of Triomes. That would obviously be too good for sales. So hopefully we get the Ikoria ones that are now starting to creep up. The Indantha Triome is $18.77 at its TCG Player mid. So how much would you pay for a tapped land? A fetchable tapped land And, this is not just like just for Commander. This is obviously like a reprint that needs to happen for Commander, but these are cards that are seeing play in Modern, in Standard, or well, not in Standard anymore, but this is a card that's seeing play in Modern, just because fetching it makes the domain count like that much higher. So Cyanide Draco, and Leyline Binding are going to be seeing more play, especially since that new Leyline just came out in the most recent set, making everything 5-color, making domain so much easier to achieve. So we'll see here, but Enchanted Triumph's not the most expensive one. Zagoth Triumph actually comes in at $23 even at TCG Player Mid, which is kind of crazy for a tapped land, which is why I say that these need reprints. These are cards that they don't necessarily, like, just like dual lands don't, like the old ones, like the come in untapped, have land types, everything, they don't impact, like, people who like shed a negative light or shed or shit on them, they don't impact the overall outcome of the game as massively as they once did. There are so many untapped variants of lands that you can play that are just as effective. These are tapped. These are obviously going to slow you down a little bit on your way to victory. Is it worth $23? I don't think so. I don't really think they are. Obviously, like I said, domain decks and constructed formats are going to make this like a sort of like inflate the price. But nonetheless, Commander players are suffering for it. Hopefully, we see a reprint of these coming up soon. Another card from Ikoria, the Ozolith. Wow, this has gotten out of hand. It is $39.17 for an Ozolith because it has not really seen a meaningful reprint. We saw them in Lord of the Rings and just as like one of those reskinned cards. But this is a card that needs a significant reprint. Being $39 is sort of unreasonable for a 1-mana legendary artifact that supports counter strategies. And like not like counter spells, but counters. So we'll see where this goes to. I love the card. I don't really think it needs to be this expensive. Next, CDH All-Star, Thassa's Oracle. We did get the secret layer for this not too long ago, and it was popular. So popular that it is $111. So you're actually getting a hell of a deal by getting the standard cheapest print at $19. But if you want the secret layer, you should have bought it at launch, which I did. Ritter did too. But it is $111 for that sweet, sweet artwork with starfish bikini. And this is a card that wins the game almost instantly. It's not really a great standard commander card. I think a lot of people will groan and complain and never, like in a casual scene, probably not want to play with you again if you win in this way. But that's how bad of a rep it has. But it's such a good card in CDH, and I really hope that we can bring that price down a little bit further, since it is only CDH, which, since we just talked about last week, Wizards of the Coast is trying to host and like sanctioned CDH tournaments, which I love. I love that concept. I really want them to do that. Now, which the agreement couldn't be struck immediately, because Wizards of the Coast had a stipulation that all players would need to have real cards. So immediately you cut out, I would have to say you probably cut out like 65% of the community by doing that. So what does your first sanctioned CDH tournament look like if there are no proxies allowed? Does that it's not going to register great numbers, and you're probably, Wizards of the Coast will be like, well, then the community's not there. It's a dead format. That's why I'm doing this episode today, is because I want to bring to light how expensive some cards are, and to get the most common win condition in CDH, you have to pay a minimum of $19.08 to get one, which is just painful. The average CDH deck, now this is just spitballing, I don't have the facts or the numbers right in front of me, but I would have to wager that the average CDH deck that's going to compete is between $3,000 and $5,000. So that is such a huge bar for entry. And we ultimately need to, if we want to have these sanctioned events, we either need to, one, negotiate proxies like being acceptable. I know that Gabby's in Olympia has been like great with like riding that line of being like, hey, you can bring 10 proxies, and every other card has to be like real, but you report your 10 proxies and those are acceptable, because a Gaia's Cradle being $800 is just it. You are at a disadvantage, like out the gate at every single game by not having a Mana Crypt, a Gaia's Cradle. If you are an Enchantress player like me, having a Sarah Sanctum, like it really hurts when you can't field the right deck for you as a player in the strategy that you want to play if you can't afford a Survival of the Fittest because of this the reserve list. So really hope that Thassa's Oracle and all these cards start to come down. There is a couple more because I just want to put into like a scope and a frame of time that between 2 and 5 years, we are hitting the 5-year mark roughly. Thassa's Oracle has been in the format for 4 years. Feel old yet? The Great Henge is the next card I want to talk about because right on the edge of our 5-year mark was Throne of Eldraine, one of the most powerful sets we've ever seen. And the Great Henge, even though it has seen some reprints in Lord of the Rings and Commander Masters even, it is still $57 for a card that maybe is broken. If it was cheaper, I think that obviously you would see it played more, which is great. I think that we need to be encouraging like powerful cards to be played so that players will in turn play decks with more interaction so that you have more removal for things like these in the moment. But the Great Henge has been around for a while. It is one of the most effective ways to draw cards in green, especially if your commander is 5 or more power, I would say, or if you have, something that is able to grow quickly and then this costs 2 mana. The hope is that this is 2 mana every single time. $57. Kind of unacceptable, that's a huge investment for someone who's just trying to play casually, or like I said, someone who's trying to get into CDH in a strategy that revolves around this exploding and drawing you a ton of cards. And now the last card, which the original printing of this doesn't change the fact that it still needs a reprint, but the original printing of this card was in 2019 and it just makes the cut. It hasn't been totally like 5 years yet. But Dockside Extortionist, the cheapest version from Commander 2019, comes in at a whopping $81.93. Oh my God. We just got a reprint, right? We just got a reprint. Like Double Masters was like not that long ago. We just saw this thing come back to the forefront and we were like, oh yeah, Dockside's $55 again, which 55 sounds reasonable. What? We're just talking about the Great Henge being 57. And I know that this is the most powerful card in Commander, like that exists in CDH, in casual, whatever. My argument has always been that it scales with power, so it's less impactful in casual, but nonetheless, Dockside.deck exists for a reason, and this is the most combo-tastic card probably in the format. So here we are. It is the linchpin for so many strategies at $81.93. I cannot imagine. This is why I'm proxy forward, and this is why I support proxies. And this isn't to hurt my chances at becoming a content creator in Vegas again, but like I'm doing giveaways, man. I'm not making money at this. Like, it's like I'm playing Magic for the hell of it, and I'm doing this podcast for fun. And like $81.93 is a huge chunk of change that I could have justified like a few years ago when I was making better money. But now, or before the economy got to be the way it is. But it is Wizards of the Coast. Come on. Like, you're staring it right in the face. Like, right here. Please, if you listen to this episode, comment and like just feel the pain in my voice. Like, holy shit. This should not be this expensive, especially for something that you refuse to ban. Like, which we just had another quarterly meeting of the rules committee for Commander, and the only thing that changed was the wording of their social contract, which is treat everyone nice and have a good time. That is the spirit of the game. But this, yeah. Like, I get it. It's in their back pocket. They're looking at it. They're like, whenever we reprint a set with Dockside, it's going to sell, and it's going to sell really, really well. Anything we print with Shocklands will also sell well. Anything we print with Fetchlands will also sell well. Those are necessary staples. Now we have Fetchlands at around $20, which we should be looking at cards being around $10. Like, that it doesn't seem like it's too far of a stretch or too much of a request. So Dockside is the last card on our list for today. Pate, you've been pretty silent. You're right. I didn't really reach out to you much today. So you know what? Next time. I'll get to you next time, and we'll have a good time. That's the spirit. All right. Let's get into our giveaway. Today we have 11 entrants, some multiples. Thank you to UWP Corp for being a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead. If you do not see your name on here, it's either because, one, you didn't quite meet the requirements to enter. You had to follow us on Instagram and then comment on the photo that we printed or that we posted, or become a supporter of the show on Patreon. So here we go. We're spinning. This is for the Dan Frazier foil etched Arcane Signet and the 1/1 MoxStars can cap by Cora Labs. So here we go. Which button do I press? Not that one. It's going so slow. Hey, K Mr. K! The volume on that's crazy, but congratulations, K Mr. K. You have won yourself a foil etched Arcane Signet by Dan Schneider and a 1/1 can cap. I'll be reaching out to you shortly to give you your prize. And look at that. Pickerwheel.com is a Pepperhead as well. All right. This has been the MoxStars podcast. Again, K Mr. K, congratulations. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for being a Pepperhead. And if you would like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, like this video, and ring that bell for more notifications. You can also find us on all major podcasting platforms. You can join the Discord server, join the community, and help me figure out what I'm going to cosplay as at MagicCon, and help Ritter and I figure out what we're going to do for a community panel if we're accepted into to doing that. You can also support us on Patreon, where you'll get free entries into these giveaways that we do bi-weekly. By becoming a Pepperhead, an official Pepperhead, you get one free entry into every giveaway. And by becoming a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead, the difference is $3 a month versus $5 a month. If you become a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead, you get 2 free entries. So the more people that join, the higher the prize pool gets. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go turn some cardboard sideways and tap out all my mana so that I can be absolutely turned over and by interaction. All right. Bye.